I want to ask you a question that most people never ask. It's not because they don't care, but it's because it's uncomfortable. If your income stopped tomorrow, not eventually, not someday, but tomorrow, what would happen to your family? In 30 days, in 60 days, in a year? I'm not asking to frighten you. I'm asking because the families who answer that question now, before this disruption, are the ones who don't lose everything when it comes. Job loss, health crisis, business failure, the unexpected death of the primary earner. These are not hypotheticals, they are statistics. I'm Sharon Webster with Recalibrate Legacy, and today we are having the conversation that most families avoid until it's too late. In just 30 days, the bills don't stop. The mortgage, the car payment, the utilities, the groceries, they keep coming. And if there's no liquid reserves, the first month is already a crisis. By 90 days, without income replacement, most families are making impossible choices. Which bills get paid? Whether to pull from retirement accounts, if you have them. Do you sell some of your assets? Do you ask the family for help? By 1 year, without a protection plan in place, the financial damage can take years to recover from. Not because the family wasn't faithful, not because they didn't work hard, but because the plan was always the income, and the income stopped. That's not a judgment. That is a statistic. And it's exactly why this conversation cannot wait. The majority of American households, including the majority of faith-rooted, hard-working, well-intentional households, are one income event away from a financial crisis. One layoff, one diagnosis, one accident, one economic shift in the industry, and everything that took you years to build is at risk. One stream is not a financial plan. It is a financial vulnerability. I'm not coming to condemn anyone. I've been there. Most people were never taught anything different. They were taught to get a good job, work hard, be loyal, and trust the stability would follow. Did you get that? They worked hard, they were loyal, they trusted that the stability that they had built would follow always. And for a season, that was enough. But we're not in that economic season anymore. The single stream assumption is not just a financial habit, it's a mindset. In this series, we have been talking about the 3 mindsets that shape every financial decision we make: the barbaric, the Greek, and the Hebraic. The single stream assumption is a Greek mindset operating in your finances. The Greek mind thinks linearly: one source, one path, one outcome. Find the best option and optimize it. In a stable, predictable world, that can feel like wisdom, but it is actually instability dressed up as focus. The Hebraic mind thinks in terms of covenant ecosystems, multiple streams, redundant provision, layered protection. Not because you don't trust God, but because you understand that He provides through many channels simultaneously. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, "Give a portion to 7 and also to 8." This is not a suggestion. This is an ancient covenant blueprint for your financial life. There is a story in 2 Kings 4 that I want to share with you, and hold on to this because it's going to help you. So a widow came to the prophet Elisha in a crisis. Her husband had died. Her creditors were knocking at her door, and they were about to take her sons to work in the labor camps to pay for her debt. Elijah did not ask her what she needed. He asked her what she already had. "Tell me, what do you have in your house?" he asked. And she said, "Nothing. Nothing at all. Well, except a small jar of olive oil." That jar was her single stream. One source, one vessel, one so small she almost didn't count it because to her it was insignificant. But Elijah said, "Go borrow vessels, not few, but as many as you can find. Then go inside, shut your door, and start pouring the oil." And friends, the oil did not run out until there were no more vessels to hold the oil. I want you to hear that. The multiplication stopped when she ran out of containers to receive it. Wow. The oil did not run out. The multiplication did not stop until she had no containers to hold it. That, my friends, is the kingdom model of multiple streams. God is not asking you to hustle for something you don't have. He is asking you to look at what you already have in your hand. The gifts, the skills, the experience, the anointing He already placed in you. And begin positioning vessels to receive the multiplication He has been wanting to release. The widow didn't work harder. She positioned more vessels. And the question Elisha asked her is the same question this month is asking you. What do you have in your house? What do you have in your hand? Because God wants to multiply what you already carry, not what you're waiting to receive. So what does income protection actually look like? I work with clients around 3 foundational layers. That first layer is liquidity, the emergency reserve. Before any investing, before any strategy, a family needs liquid reserves. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an accessible account. This is not an investment. This is not meant to grow. It is meant to create a buffer between a disruption and a disaster. Most families do not have this, and because they don't, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis instead of an inconvenience. Layer number 2, protection, life and disability insurance. Here's the reframe that I want to say about life insurance. It's not about dying. It's about making sure that people that you love are financially protected from any disastrous things that would happen to you. And there's several types. Term, which is for a certain amount of time, and it has a death benefit that your family would receive after your death. Some policies now have living benefits also. Then there's permanent life insurance with living benefits built in. There's also a cash value built in. It provides access to capital and creates legacy in ways that a term policy does not. And then there's another type, which is the IUL policy, which is a flexible life insurance plan that protects your family while also helping you build money over time for future needs like retirement. And then there's disability insurance that's even more overlooked. You are strategically more likely to be disabled than to die during your working years. Most families have no plan for what happens to their income if they cannot work, or a spouse cannot work and they have to take care of them. Layer number 3, multiple streams, the redundancy blueprint. The long-term answer to a single stream vulnerability is building multiple streams. Not overnight, not recklessly, but intentionally and progressively. You do not build multiple streams all at once. You build them one at a time until one stream stopping is a setback, not a catastrophe. Now, I want you to hear me clearly. When I talk about multiple streams, I am not talking about the world's model of hustle. 7 jobs, 4 side gigs, grinding yourself to the ground, trying to manufacture provision through sheer human effort. That, my friend, is not the Hebraic model. That is Pharaoh's system with a different master. And instead of Pharaoh driving you, you are driving yourself. That is not God's plan either. The kingdom model of multiple streams is not about working more. It's about being positioned strategically so that God can provide through more channels. Think of the jars of oil. There is a significant difference between striving and positioning. One is driven by fear, the barbaric mind. The other is led by wisdom. There is a principle I call the release principle out of Ecclesiastes 11 that governs how kingdom wealth actually multiplies. I'm only planting the seed today around that release principle, and we will go deeper in that concept in my upcoming Covenant Wealth Institute. Multiple streams are not just a financial strategy. They are a spiritual posture. This month is the month of Iyar, and we have been talking about biblical principles out of what actually took place in biblical times during this month. Every week we've been building. I've been bringing you back to what God did. Well, last week we talked about manna, how God's provision rained down from heaven every single morning. This week we're going to move forward into the wilderness journey. The manna is falling, the cloud is leading them, the fire is warming them by night. God is showing himself faithful. And now a new crisis arises. The water runs out. But before we get to the rock, I need to take you back even a little bit further in Egypt. Israel operated under a forced single system stream. We talked about that. Pharaoh's economy was built to deliberately keep them in his sphere. You make bricks, that's your assignment, that's your value, that's your entire financial identity. One task, one master, one stream, and it belonged to someone else. Pharaoh did not want them thinking in terms of ownership, inheritance, and multiplication. That is God's design for you. A people who know how to build multiple streams cannot be controlled by one master. So the system in Egypt was designed to keep them in one lane. Make the straw, make the bricks, stay dependent, stay single stream. So here is what's sobering. They left Egypt, but Egypt did not immediately leave them. Matter of fact, for most of them, it never did. And when the water runs out in Exodus 17, when the familiar source dried up, their first instinct was panic. Give us water, one source, one channel. And if God only could provide the water the way that Pharaoh had provided them with bread and water through a controlled supply. That's what they were asking for. Take us back to Egypt. That is Egypt still operating in their thinking. But God's answer was, strike the rock. Not the river, not the well, not the obvious source, right? The rock. Exodus 17:6 says, I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink. Provision does not always come from the expected source. I want to say that again. Provision does not always come from the expected source. When your primary stream feels like it's drying up, God's answer is not always to refill the same well. Sometimes his answer is, open a rock, a source you never would have identified on your own. For me, that was financial services. A stream that did not exist until you spoke it into being. But here is what I need you to see. Moses had to strike the rock. He had to move. He had to act on what God said before the water would appear. Preparation, friends, is not a lack of faith. Preparation is striking the rock before you die of thirst. Egypt trained them for one stream. God was rebuilding them for many. And Iyar, the month of Yahweh Rapha, is the month he wants to heal and deliver us from that Egypt thinking that has kept your financial life in one lane. You're not in Pharaoh's system anymore. You do not have to live like you are. Here is what I want you to do before this week is over. Sit down with your spouse or yourself, if you are managing your finances alone, and ask 3 questions honestly. Question number 1, how many months could your family sustain your current lifestyle if your primary income stopped today? Question number 2, if the primary earner in a household died tomorrow, what is the financial plan for your family? Question number 3, what would it take to add one additional income stream in the next 12 months? You do not have to solve these 3 questions today, but you have to stop avoiding the questions, because the answers are uncomfortable, yes, but they are the beginning of a plan. And a plan is the beginning of preparation. If this conversation has surfaced some real gaps in your financial protection plan, I want to address that. I want to invite you to book a complimentary financial alignment review. The link is in the description. As I say every week, this is not a sales call. I'm not pitching you. I want to have a genuine covenant conversation. Where are you? What are your specific vulnerabilities? And what is your most strategic next step? And if you want to go through this framework with a community of people who are serious about building legacy, financial legacy, the Created for More Covenant Wealth Institute is coming in June. 5 weeks of live formation. Details are in the description. Stay close. Plan to join us. Next week, video 4, we're going to talk about the waiting trap, the financial mistake most people call wisdom. Subscribe because you don't want to miss it. Let me speak this over your household. May every gap in your family's financial protection be identified and filled with wisdom and strategy. May the love you carry for your family be expressed not only in what you give today, but in what you prepare for tomorrow. May your household be a place of stability, of legacy, of covenant faithfulness. And may the people you love most never be left to face the unexpected without a plan. Egypt trained you for one stream, but you serve the God who brings water from the rock, who supernaturally fills jars of oil. And He's not finished opening up new sources over your life. In the name of Yeshua, so be it, and so it is. Shalom.